funny because the majority of my life I looked at failure as a bad thing, and I failed at taking my own life. I mean, arguably one of the easiest things to do in life is to take your own life. I failed at that, and I didn't see the beauty in that. I felt like more of a failure. And fortunately, we were talking about tribes. Met a guy who kind of just took me under his wing, and he goes, "Man, I'm so glad you suck at something." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "How beautiful is it? You've failed at trying to take your own life." He's like, "You think failure is a bad thing? Man, it sounds like the best thing in your life. You failed at the one thing that is the easiest to do. So where else is failure actually a gift?" I'm like just mind melting moment. It's one of those like, whoa, what? It was like the Matrix moment. And that was kind of what led me to, I've had this belief system and these stories. I've never checked it or challenged it. Whatever I felt or thought, I just took as reality.
Welcome to the Cardinal Way for Men. My name is Ed Cardinal. In my introductory video on my YouTube channel, I mentioned that I was going to have some great guests in the field of recovery, and today is one of them. And I recently got introduced to him through a acquaintance and friend I just met actually recently here in Western North Carolina. And it's a pleasure to have Mark Manderson on my podcast today. And he is the head of operations at Pacific Shores Recovery Center. And I had a short phone conversation with him uh, before I asked him to be a guest. And what I was really struck by is his positivity, really positive guy. And I know he's going to have some great inspirational and educational information available to men who are struggling with addiction. So welcome, Mark.
How's it going? Well, now I was going to come in all low energy, but now that you pump me up with the happy. But no, it's funny you say that. And first of all, thank you. I take that as a compliment. For a lot of my life, like plastered this fake smile on because it was a way to basically cope with the pain,
Right,
and I thought I had to be happy all the time.
right.
And the irony is back when I was fake happy, I was dying inside.
Yeah,
And then once I started actually dying outside and just talking about it, I got more and more happy, like authentically and genuinely. So now I'm happy the majority of the time. Still struggle with depression. So there's some days where the smile turns into sadness, and I've learned how to roll with it.
yeah,
Just part of life. And as weird as it sounds, actually enjoy the depression when it hits, and created a relationship with it. So
yeah.
how's that for an intro? Now people are probably really confused.
Well, it's interesting what you just mentioned. I've been watching these really inspirational short videos that kind of focus on really wise people, and a lot of them are older. And the one that I heard this morning was a woman who she had quite a tough childhood and was sexually abused by her father. But she talks about that we need to be comfortable with some of these challenges emotionally that we have, get comfortable with them and not avoid them, to talk about them, just like you did. And it's inspirational to hear you as a man talk about your challenges with depression, because as you know, men in our culture we're conditioned and we're taught that it's not acceptable to express emotions and feelings. It's a sign of weakness. So I admire what you just did. It's a great way to model what I feel is something that I'm meant to do, is teach men how to express emotions and that it's okay to be vulnerable. I would say that's one of my strengths, is vulnerability. And I think it's a great attribute. Wasn't always there. It took me a long
Yeah.
time to get comfortable with it. I mean, if I ever expressed any sort of vulnerability with my father, I was completely ridiculed, made fun of. So I learned that that was not acceptable at a young age. But what I learned later in life about my dad and is that I'm a lot like him. He is actually a very sensitive man who was not able to be vulnerable when he was growing up because his father um, ridiculed him and made fun of him. So,
Yeah, we tend to pass down our pain when we don't know any different. So part of the education, one of the things I didn't know for the longest time is that emotions are muscles.
yeah,
And so if I'm not working out certain emotions or stuffing down or repressing or sedating, I mean, in the addiction field, we see a lot of it with men with suppressing the emotions. And so part of the stigma that we're trying to make more aware of is, no, look, God gave us these emotions for a reason.
right,
He made us perfect and all these emotions. So one of the things that we teach is actually learning how, this might sound weird, but to detach from emotion from the problem. So if I'm stuck in the problem and I can't see a way out, what we want to do is take a step back and become an observer and look and go, okay, here's the trigger, here's the emotions, maybe not keep them fully connected, but pull them apart so we can look. And this is what is the path to freedom. This is what we found actually opens that part. Oh, okay, cool. You can still see me.
yes,
And so we call it observational living
yeah,
of actually taking a step back and working it out. So if I'm experiencing an emotion and it's new to me, instead of giving it a label or a meaning of saying, let me take a step back and actually experience this to see what is this? What does it want to tell me? What does it want to teach me?
right. Almost like you're a witness. You're a witness to the process, right?
Yeah, 100%. When I witness, I don't have to be attached to the outcome. I can just kind of sit there and I can explore and ask questions. And so, and one of the things I love about you, Sharon, is that you're teaching it's okay to speak about emotions.
Right.
You know, we're taught, trained, and educated. Go out, you know, kill the food, bring the food home, shut up, do your thing. It's kind of like, well, okay, I can kind of see that, but we're in a time and place now where there's nothing really attacking us to kill us, and we still
Right.
have all these emotions, and still learning, especially as men, of how to actually live and survive and have fun and thrive and everything in between.
And also to be able to have the support of others instead of having to do it
Mm-hmm.
by yourself. I think that's an important part, I think, of recovery is that you have that support network that will lift you up in your times of struggle. And that also, as an individual in that support network, you're also helping other people.
Yeah, community, or AKA tribe,
Right.
that's a huge part. We see a lot of people come into our center, find this tribe, this community, actually learn how to vocalize emotions, become vulnerable. As guys, I like the term real and raw.
Yeah.
We just let it out. But when we have a tribe, it's fantastic. And the tough thing is when we go back to our living quarters, one of the things that we teach is what we call a life team here, building a life team, making sure that I have a group of men that I can call, where if I'm having a great day, odds are we look for about 8 to 10 people. Odds are I can call one of my guys, share the great day. They can call me if I'm struggling. I'm going to get a hold of one of those guys and say, hey, I'm struggling today. Just need to talk to someone. And having this tribe, this community, that there is no topics off limits, and being real and raw together. Actually, I have two. One's Christian based, so it's my men's group, and another is more business, and just kind of in your face, punch you in the gut, no holds barred group. And it's fantastic because I've got two sets of men that I can go to and, first of all, do life with, which is fantastic. And one of them is in person, the other we're all over the globe. And then it's, yeah, it just, there's something about finding safety
Yes.
among other men where you can talk and still be masculine in that safe space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was, joining a men's group early in recovery for me was such an important part of my growth process. And like you said, it was a place where it was safe for me to be vulnerable, to express my emotions. I wasn't ridiculed like I was growing up with my father. And also it normalized some of the ways I was. There was times when I thought there was something wrong with me because I was a sensitive man and a sensitive boy. And so it really was a great gift to be a part of that men's group. And I met my best friend, who's a clinical social worker, in that men's group, and we're still friends today. I was the best man in his wedding. When he got remarried, we've been through divorce together, remarriages together, and so such a gift that came out of being a part of a men's group.
Yeah, there's a big gift. I call it the gift of connection. Like we were put on earth to actually connect, and when we get to experience much deeper levels than just the surface, and what us guys see each other, how you doing? Good. How you doing? Good. Oh, okay. I mean, that was the extent to a lot of it. And having this place, you can actually get real and raw. And what's incredible is we tend to think vulnerability is a weakness. We found it's actually a strength. I
Absolutely.
mean, it takes some elite style men to be able to share about some of the stuff that's happened behind closed doors in a place. And I mean, that is true strength, and that's what leads to the liberation, the freedom that we're looking to do here at Pacific Shores.
Right. Awesome. So what motivated you, inspired you to get involved in the addictions field?
So my story is a little different than a lot of other people. One of the questions people always ask is, "Oh, how old were you when you first got introduced to drugs?" Well, I was 8 years old. I actually walked in on my aunt Odine, so at a very young age. I mean, it was just you talk about a traumatic experience. I don't remember a lot of that time. So through therapy and different things, pieced it together over the years. But at the time, I had no idea that would lead me to actually helping build a treatment center and helping people heal at the spiritual level. I mean, this 8-year-old kid walks in, his favorite aunt, the lively one. I mean, she was a kid at heart. I'm trying to shake her. Didn't know what was going on. Went and grabbed my mom. Fortunately, my mom revived her, but because she brought drugs back in, we ended up. My mom asked her to leave, and then about 2 months later, same thing happened, but no one was there to save her. So at a very young age, that seed was planted of, hey, this is something serious. This isn't other people. We are the they.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so learning of, hey, this affects everybody. It's not what you read about. It's not necessarily the stigma that you think of, because my aunt did goofballs, which was heroin and meth mixed together.
Mm.
And so a lot of people, you hear a heroin addict and you're thinking, oh, it's a homeless person on the street, different things. It's like, no, I mean, she had a kid, wonderful, just so much fun. So that is what got me into it. About 20 years later is when I started to explore and just felt this calling, this passion. I can still remember it because I'm coming up on 21 years actually of doing this, but there's like this fire within my solar plex that when the opportunity came to be a part of this, it just started, and it's still burned just as bright 2 decades later.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So it sounds like you listen to your intuition, that small little voice that usually, it burns in our hearts, and it reveals the mission or the purpose that we're meant to fulfill in this lifetime. And it seems to me like that's exactly what you're doing. And it's such a gift to all the people that you've helped throughout the past over two decades. And for me, what I'm doing now with this platform, that's my mission, is to help men recovering from alcoholism to find community, to get healthier, to fulfill their purpose. So it's always good to meet another man who is following his heart and serving others in the process.
Yeah, and I wish I could say, oh, I've been that way my whole life, but no, the first 20 plus years of my life was just pure pain.
Yeah.
I did not listen to that internal voice, the intuition. I thought I was different in so many areas, and just led to a life of a lot of pain, to the point. I wrote a book that came out this year, and is one of the reasons why I'm doing a lot of these podcasts, is to get the word out. But I talk about it in there. I actually was so miserable at one point. I left my house with the intent to take my life. So I did not understand how to listen, how to cultivate, how to do what I call my morning walk and talk, where I co-create with my creator. It took a lot of pain until finally I just said, look, I surrender. And it's not that I wanted to die, but I didn't want to be alive with all this pain.
Right.
And then that is how, by doing the work day in and day out, just continuing to stay consistent. I mean, I'll tell you, these days, consistency is a superpower. We see
Yes.
so many people will start something and then stop, and then start and then stop. Or like the easiest realm is with fitness. They keep losing the same 10 pounds. They're on their fifth, sixth, seventh round. It's kind of like, what would happen if we just stayed consistent, lost the 10 pounds, kept it off, and then just continued to thrive with whatever it was that we wanted to do or be.
Mhm.
And that is, once I started doing the work, started getting the results. Imagine that. And then it led me down, and that was where it just literally took one prayer, and I was in, still say the
Wow.
same prayer every single morning. Keep the fire burning bright if this is what you want me to do, and if not, extinguish it, open another door, and
Exactly.
that fire just keeps raging, man.
Yeah. Was there a particular moment when that light bulb went off in your head or in your heart that you knew that you had to change things, or you might not be here right now if you didn't?
Well, yeah, I mean, what it's funny because the majority of my life I looked at failure as a bad thing, and I failed at taking my own life. I mean, arguably one of the easiest things to do in life is to take your own life. I failed at that, and I didn't see the beauty in that. I felt like more of a failure. And fortunately, we were talking about tribes. Met a guy who kind of just took me under his wing, and he goes, "Man, I'm so glad you suck at something." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "How beautiful is it? You've failed at trying to take your own life." He's like, you think failure is a bad thing? Man, it sounds like the best thing in your life. You failed at the one thing that is the easiest to do. So where else is failure actually a gift? I'm like just mind melting moment. It's one of those like, whoa, what? It was like the Matrix moment. And that was kind of what led me to, I've had this belief system and these stories. I've never checked it or challenged it. Whatever I felt or thought, I just took as reality.
Right.
And so through this process of really looking to retrain and rewire the brain, it's like, ooh, what if I become an observer of what I think or feel and challenged it? So when I'm thinking these horrific thoughts of how terrible I am, I started questioning those instead of taking those as truth. And then the few thoughts that I have, it's like, man, you're awesome. You kick ass. I actually started believing that instead of questioning those. It was like the wires just got crossed.
Right.
So just by kind of messing with that, it's opened up a whole other path to life.
Mm. So what was the first step that you needed to take besides realizing that you needed to change something? What was it therapy? Was it some sort of
So
group, or was it?
So I kind of discovered, well, I should say my parents discovered a cheat hack. They divorced when I was 6 and they put me in therapy, and I just never stopped.
Okay.
I didn't know you could stop. So I just continued to ask questions. When you ask, what's the one thing, I think there's two. Number one, I've never backed down from dumb questions. I've always been the guy that will sit front row and ask the dumbest questions. I tell people I think at about a fourth grade level. So if you can tell me in a fourth grade level, I'll get it. But the beauty of that is once I get it, or I can take things that are kind of abstract, bring it down to a fourth grade level. Then once I understand, I can go and teach it to the masses at that level. And for some reason, a lot of people are like, that makes sense. I've never heard it like that before. And I'm sitting there going, I know. Everyone's trying to sound all smart. I'm like, I'll sound dumb, but I'll get it and change my life. This is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Lifestyle look like now? What does your health routine look like?
So this is where we get a little crazy. And I talk about it in my book, The Recovery Way. We teach what's called 5 to Thrive here. And so we call it first fruits. So there's 5 foundations that we found. I just started interviewing people that went through the program because we would have 2 people come through the same program, have the same therapist, same case manager, sit in the same groups. One would go on and a year later thrive in life, and another would just keep doing this pattern. And so I just started asking questions again, not being afraid to look dumb, like why, what do you do? And so the 5 areas of life we found is every single day, those that are thriving were doing something in the area of fitness, meaning they were moving, they were sweating, they were working out. The cool thing is with this framework, it's not like CrossFit or die. It's kind of like,
Right.
oh no, like I do Pilates, I'll do yoga, I'll do heavy weights, I'll surf, I do jujitsu. You can plug in whatever it is, but our bodies were built to move. And when we
Absolutely.
move, it releases different chemicals in our brain. When we have different chemicals in our brain, we start to look better, we feel better, we make healthier choices.
Right.
So I make sure that I work out 7 days a week. Now, a lot of people will say, wait, that's not healthy. Well, yeah, it is. Compared to what I did before, when I say work out, like I surfed on Saturday for about an hour, hour and a half. We live here in Orange County, so I surfed. I took a bike ride the next day. I just did a little road bike, and then my son wanted to join, so we hopped on a bike and went around. That's considered a workout. You're moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's fitness. Second part is faith. I've been diagnosed by some dude in a white lab coat, so we give it a very very strong attachment. But says, oh yeah, you're ADD ADHD. You struggle paying attention. I don't like labels too much, so I thought, okay, well, what does that reference mean? It means you struggle paying attention. Well, yeah, but stuff I love, I can get lost in for hours. Stuff I don't like, squirrel.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I found, and this was difficult, was meditation.
Yeah.
I've tried meditating off and on for years and years, couldn't figure it out until someone told me there's no wrong way to meditate. The only wrong way to meditate is to not do it.
Right.
And so just focusing on breath, the breath is more important than the thought. The thoughts will still come. See, I was told in order to meditate, you can't have any thoughts. That's why I sucked. I'm like, I don't even know how to turn this thing off.
Mhm.
I love it because it continues to give all these ideas
Right.
and ways that I can help other people and make money and support my
Right.
family. And it's this beautiful thing. So actually taking time each day to slow down the thoughts and to actually have conversations with some of those thoughts. So in faith, I call it, I think I mentioned it earlier, co-creating with my creator. I'll
Yeah.
meditate, I'll take a walk and just have this dialogue, just me and myself. My neighbors probably think I'm crazy, but I'm crazy happy now because of this relationship. So that's the faith part. Then from there, I go to family and friends. I want to continually plug in and just give to my family and friends. So where I come up with this is, oh man, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, one of the guys that we used to work side by side, and he helped a ton of people. He died of an overdose, and so we went to his funeral, and I've never seen a few. I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds. It was packed all the way out, and it was out in the desert where it's about 107, 108 degrees. It was so hot, and person after person shared so beautifully and eloquently at how he positively impacted their life. And I happen to know about 4 or 5 of the guys that shared. And so afterwards, I went up to every single one individually. And I just told them, I said, man, what you shared was beautiful. Like I got moved. I want to live differently, hearing the way he impacted you. Did you share that with him when he was alive? And not one person said yes. Every single person said, I wish I would have. Like he knew how I felt, but I never shared that deeply, that intimately, that real, that raw. And so I call it the living eulogy.
Yeah.
And so it's one of the things we teach here is every day we want to make a daily deposit into someone that we care about life, of something like a memory or something that we honor or appreciate or love about them. Um, so that is 3 of the 5. Next is finances. Every single person followed their passion or discovered their purpose and then found a way to pursue their purpose and make a living from it.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the big keys that they did. And then finally, those 4 sit on the base, what we call feelings, doing emotional work, getting those emotional reps in. I have a morning ritual that I do every single day. So some people look at me and they say, you're crazy. You do an hour to an hour and a half of work every single day. I say, yes. And it makes those 23 other hours beautiful.
Now, have you incorporated these principles into the recovery center? Is that part of the recovery center?
Oh, absolutely. We
Yeah.
actually have a whole framework that we teach on this, and that was why last year in one of those walk-in talks with my creator, I was told, hey, you need to write what you're doing in here and get it out into people's hands that may not be able to take 30, 60, 90 days off of work, or may not have hit rock bottom or have to go through the hell that a lot of people do if they would have had this information earlier. So I actually broke it down, wrote the book. We teach the book, as well as we have a whole training series that we do here in our center. And we get really good results for those that do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. So you incorporate the holistic practices like meditation. How about breathing? Do you do like a breathing practice?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is actually a story that I love. Is back in 2015, I started drinking some of the Kool-Aid of actually going to these different conferences to just live better, to feel better. And one of the guest speakers was this crazy guy, which I'd never heard of him back then, but his name's Wim Hof.
Yeah.
And so he goes into this crazy thing on stage and gets everybody breathing. And, at these conferences, you can either be the cool guy that doesn't get anything on the sidelines or go, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, I'm all in, let's do it. So I got into it and experienced the best high I've ever had in my life. And there were zero negative consequences, the positive effect for hours afterwards. So I ended up enrolling in one of his courses and took his course, and it's still something I practice to this day between cold exposure and the breath work. And we've brought the breath work in, not exactly his method, but very similar, into our center.
That's awesome. And then you and I talked about in our phone conversation about the cold exposure and the heat exposure combination. And, it's something I've been doing for a couple of years, and the physiological benefits and also the mental benefits of that practice is just remarkable. And he's had research, Wim Hof's, he's allowed people to use him as a guinea pig, and the changes that take place and how he's changed his physiology is some people would say it's miraculous, but it's just tells you and shows you how the ability of our bodies to respond when we challenge them.
Yeah, well, 100%. Yeah, the contrast therapy, and it's one of those things too where you start all these executive packages you start to see become more streamlined, and a lot of people get a little bit scared by it. But it's kind of like, look, you don't have to do all this stuff, especially when it comes to alcoholism or drugs. It's like if you just stop the poisoning part
Right.
and just pick maybe one or two things, you start to see the difference. And I call it the new AA, meaning the new approved addiction. So we just look at going, instead of poisoning, what if this new addiction is, how do I make sure that I get myself aligned and I'm congruent with what I'm wanting in life by doing this morning ritual, this morning routine that retrains, rewires the brain. And then you can pick and choose what you want to do. So we don't have everybody doing, okay, hour and a half every single day. I'm a little much for a lot of people in the beginning. So that's why in the beginning, we just pull it back and say, let's just choose one thing across each foundation. And it could only be 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So you're only talking like 20, 25 minutes, absolute max. And the neat thing is once they start feeling it, seeing the results, then it's like, okay, what else can I do? And then it's seasonal. Some seasons we have this part in, other seasons we go, this one I'm not getting as much from. I'm going to go ahead and do this. But there's just so much information and research out there that is literally free. Anybody can go and Google this stuff. And
Right.
then what we tell people is, look, try the different things. Some people love the cold exposure. Other people say, I won't be caught dead getting in the cold. It's like,
Right.
not a problem.
Right.
Here's other ways that you can actually cultivate your body to release I call them the happy, the feel good, the
Right.
serotonin, the
Right.
dopamine, the different aspects that are just wonderful.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, you make a good point, Mark, that it when I do my wellness coaching with men in recovery, I talk about taking baby steps. You don't want to try to make these major changes in your life and then add all of these different practices. Pick one. Maybe it's just moving your body, going for a walk in nature every morning. That might be it. And then you slowly add things as you feel comfortable.
Yeah, we call it the New Year's resolution syndrome.
Yeah.
December 31st, people go, oh, all right, I'm going to read the Bible for an hour a day. I'm going to go work out 4 hours a day. And then by January 3rd, like, oh, yeah, I give up. So one of the things that we talk about too is just the daily check-in, just making sure that we are checking in with ourselves. We're checking in with how am I in alignment? Because if it's only been 24 hours and I made a commitment and I didn't hit it, oh, what needs to change? What's working? What's not working? And by making those small little increments, we're able to continue down the path that we want to be on.
Mm-hmm. You've talked about your faith in spirituality. How important do you feel having some sort of a connection to a higher power, a power greater than yourself, of your belief, of your understanding? How important do you think that is for men in recovery?
Well, let me put it this way. When I'm the center of my universe, life sucks.
Yeah.
As soon as I take myself out and say, I'm gonna quit being my own issue, life gets so much better. And I'd love to say I perfected that every day. I still get my own way, but I'm getting better at recognizing it. So you're saying, well, how important is it? I would say it's the most important thing because it allows us to live a life that is freeing outside of ourselves and outside of the chatter that's up here.
Mm. I also have noticed pretty early on in recovery that a lot of men had trouble with that concept of a God or a higher power for some reason. And I just interviewed a pastor, a local pastor here, a Baptist pastor, and we talked about this topic. And what came to me when we were talking about it is that I believe men might have difficulty with that, turning something over, or because it means that they're not in control anymore. You're turning over the control of your life to something that you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
It's a belief. That's what faith is. But I don't know how you feel about that. Some men struggle with it because of that reason.
Yeah, well, one of the greatest ways is to look at the history. So the person goes, I don't like giving up control. Great. How's it working with you in control? And if a person says it works great, well, then I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I'm just going off of what I've been taught and what works for me.
Mhm.
So it's rare that someone goes, hey, it's working great. Uh, for those that say, it's not working too well, I say, well, what if we just change the delusion? Instead of delusion that you're in control, is the delusion is you're not in control,
Mhm.
and you can just control what's going on up here by doing the actual work. And
Mhm.
it's confusing enough. People are like, wait, what do you dilute control? I'm like, there you go. Now we're getting somewhere. Why? Well, because confusion is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Confusion can lead to curiosity. Curiosity leads to connection. I don't have to know what he, she, it, whatever it's called. Like your name is Ed. If I called you Frank, you'd still know your name is Ed. You wouldn't be like, oh damn, I guess I'm Frank, right?
Yeah.
And so when we look at it from that standpoint, I don't have to get on a religious platform and say, here's what must work. It's kind of like, well, if what you're doing is not working, let's try changing it up. Give it
Mhm.
30, 60, 90 days. It's one of my favorite sayings in AA. If you're not completely satisfied, we'll gladly refund your misery.
Absolutely. I love that. How important is nutrition? Having good nutrition, part of a health plan.
Yeah, I wish it wasn't this way because I absolutely love sugar and crap food.
Yeah.
But the body, it really is. The body's a temple. When you
Yeah.
feed it crap, you're going to feel like crap. I have tried. So one of the things I like doing is I like trying things for about 90 days. Like I do blood work every 90 days just to find out, is this working? Is it not? My goal, because I love life so much now, is like I want to live as long as possible at a high quality level. I'm on a mission to help men and individuals and families learn that life can be so freaking fulfilling. I use the term juicy. I don't know why. I guess maybe I think of a steak, but like life can be so juicy when it's lived in a way where I'm actually doing the work.
Right.
And so the reason why I say that is because when I would eat like crap, I would feel like crap. My depression would skyrocket through the roof.
Yeah.
Even though it's difficult, when I cut the sugar back, I eat grains, I eat proteins, I actually count my macros. Oh, it sucks. Well, yeah, it's just kind of like, well, I hate saying it this way, but it's like, man up, Like I wasn't willing to count my macros and to see what I put in my body, yet I would complain to anybody listening why I was so unhappy and overweight. Um, I don't know if we talked about this on the phone, but I used to be about 235, 240.
No.
My
No.
rock bottom at weight, and I don't mean like solid. I mean like my little girl came up to my wife who was pregnant with our second, goes, "Oh, mommy have baby in belly." And then check this out. I was not ready for this. And then she goes, "And daddy have baby in belly." And I mean, God bless my little one. I love how just innocent they are. They'll call it like they see it with zero intention to hurt anybody. And I'm just like, babe, it's not that bad, right? Well, I started seeing pictures of myself. And that was when I was eating everything. I was about 28% body fat. So one of the things that I did, and you talk about just making micro shifts, I said, I'm really set in the ways that I eat. What if I just had a protein shake with a scoop of grains and then still eat whatever I want the rest of the day? So I did that for about 3 months. Didn't really see too much of a change, but I started feeling a little bit better. Then I thought, well, if I'm doing this, what if I had a clean snack like nuts or carrots or veggies or something? And then for lunch, I could pig out, same thing, dinner. And so I just made these incremental changes about every 3 months until I started eating pretty dang clean. I still enjoy myself. But it was amazing because I got down about 197 to 200, where I've been for, I don't know, well over a decade now. And I hold about right around 15, 16% body fat, but I feel good. I can go play with my kids before I would sit on the couch and the kids would want to play. So not only am I going to live longer, and I have got the qualitative analysis from my blood work showing at how I'm chronologically getting younger just from the inside. So it's like, okay, science says that I'm going to live longer, but also the quality of life is so much better. I'm actually able to play basketball with my kid every day after work. So when you ask how important is nutrition, it makes the world of difference. And depression is so much lower. I only experience it, I don't know, maybe a few times every couple months now, where just the brain chemistry is off. But
Yep.
fortunately, I know what to do to get the brain chemistry back in.
Right. You talk about your children, and there's a lot of fathers out there. How has your ability to be a good father changed since you started making these changes in your life, and working on yourself emotionally, physically, and spiritually.
Well, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, it's, especially as dads, we like to tell the world and everybody, I'm doing it for my family. There's definitely partial truth there. We do it for ourselves, but when we really lock in with that, it's like, how do I align what I love as well as do this for my family? And so one of the things that's a non-negotiable in our family, and it wasn't always this way, but now I'm very glad to say we do family date nights every single week. We do individual kid date nights every single month. My wife and I do date nights. There's certain things that like, it sounds so cheesy, but it's like when you create systems in your life that work and all you do is stick to the systems, life gets so much more fun and enjoyable. So, I mean, doing it for the kids, it is great. We are so close. Yeah, it's probably I'm trying to think of everything that I do and I've done. I would say it is the most rewarding portion is being so close to the family by living this way.
Yeah, and they get to see a father who is a good role model too about how to take care of your body, how to express your emotions. You have do you have a son? What do you have? A daughter, a son?
Yeah, I've got a teenage daughter and a 11-year-old son.
Yeah, so
So
your
best of
son,
both worlds.
yeah, exactly. But your son gets to see a healthy male who happens to be his father, who expresses his emotions and can be vulnerable and takes care of his body. And I'm sure you're like you said, you're doing things with him, but you're probably affectionate with your children, so they feel loved in a lot of different ways. So it's such a gift, and it's impacting generations of men down the line because of what you're doing with your son.
Well, and that's a huge part is, you know, yeah, we can talk the talk and they hear it, but they see a lot more than they hear.
Right.
So you can say one thing, but if you're not backing that up, so like one of the things we do in our families, we lead from where we live.
Yeah.
We first live a certain way, and then we want people to see how we live, not by what we say, but by who we are and how we show up. So
Right.
it's pretty cool getting to hear the stories that the teachers will say about how our kids are showing up as leaders, and it's just like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations on the book, by the way. And is there anything else you want to say about your book?
Yeah, for anybody that wants it, it's on Amazon, or you can go to our site directly, which is pacificshoresrecovery.com/book. And so basically it's 20 years of knowledge broken down into just a few chapters. When I first wrote it, it was for the individual that may be looking, because here's what I've heard over 20 years of doing this. Almost everybody that comes in, they say, I felt so alone. I felt like I was broken and nobody would understand. There was so much guilt, so much shame. And so I wrote it with that type of reader in mind. And what's amazing is I had no idea would get the feedback that we're getting. A lot of people say, oh, first of all, I can't tell the last time I read a book from cover to cover, but I felt like I was having a conversation with someone that was inside my head, like that truly understood what I was going through, was able to help identify why I'm feeling this way, that I'm not broken, I'm not messed up, I'm not beyond repair. And by just making these simple little changes, that is like when you see it on paper, like, gosh, that's so simple. Could it be that easy? Well, the whole point is to make it simple enough to do it. But the problem when something is simple to do, it's just as easy not to do.
Right.
And so a lot of the feedback we're getting is, man, I read it. It was a very fast read. It was more like a conversation, and I'm actually implementing the tools. I mean, it's something you can take away and start implementing first thing tomorrow morning.
Yeah. What's the name of the book, Mark?
It's called The Recovery Way: How to Heal from Any Addiction and Start Enjoying Life Again.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you're an inspiration, Mark, not only with the work that you're doing, but putting out a book like that. You're just you know, to serve others and take care of yourself like you have, and be a role model for others is truly inspiring. And I thank you for being a guest on my my podcast. It was a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm sure that those men who listen to your wisdom are going to get something out of it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And that's the whole goal is to just let each person know, you're not alone. I know when I was in the thick of it, in the pit, I felt so alone, like nobody wanted to understand. And once I finally started opening up, that's when things started to change.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll post a link to the Recovery Center and the name of the book in the description of this video. Click the link in the description to receive your free ultimate guide for men over 45, unlocking the 10 secrets to a fulfilling life.